Oh, hi. I didn't know I had company. Come in, come in. I bought this Affinity Telecaster for like $1.50, and I decided I wanted to try relicing. Relicing is when you take a guitar and you age it and make it look real road worn, just for fun. It's not to fool anybody, but it looks cool on stage. So I got this Telecaster and I reliced the body. That part was easy. Here it is here. This is what, I don't know if you could see this, but I sanded away some of the finish. I took, you can use any tools or anything you have in your house. I just took some metal object, I don't even remember what I used, and just kind of scraped the edges. Down here I brought the wear, and then I took a screwdriver and used the handle to just tap a few dents in it. That's all. I didn't want to go, some people really go overboard with it. I didn't want to do too much with it. Then I replaced all the hardware with these fancier parts, and I used a heavy-duty contact paper. And again, I don't know if the camera's picking this up, but I used a heavy-duty contact paper on this pick guard. I could have just bought a pick guard that had a nice print on it, but I wanted to have something unique. So, and I'm not a heavy strummer, so I don't think I'll be wearing this out anytime soon, hopefully not. And I should mention that before I did all of this, I took all the hardware off and I completely sanded the body down to get the polyurethane finish off of it, to give it an aged matte finish. And I used 320 grit on that, and then I finished with a 400 grit. Now, this was really the easy part because it's easy to, inflict damage on a guitar. But the real challenge is aging the neck, okay? Because as you can see here with this one, and I don't know if the camera is picking this up, but it's a real white maple, and to quote Coca-Cola, needs to be less white. So that's the real challenge. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos on how to age a neck, and to be honest, I was really, really disappointed because I didn't care for any of the methods, not the methods, but the results that they got from those methods. Some people used shoe polish, which made it look too brown. Other people used tongue oil or true oil, and that just made it look a little yellow, but it didn't give it that real aged look. And let me show you this. This is a 30-year-old Stratocaster, and as you can see, now I used this for years in smoky bar rooms, in all kinds of venues. And again, hopefully the camera could show this, it has a beautifully aged neck. But if you look close, if you really study the shade of it, it's more of like an orangey amber tint that it has. And that's what I wanted to recreate on this other neck. After watching those videos, I realized the only way I'm going to be able to get this look is to come up with my own formula. So I came out here in the garage and I pulled out like every can of stain that I could find, and started brushing it onto scrap wood and then mixing colors together, and all I got were different shades of brown or reddish brown, and again, it was really disappointing. So then I decided the only way to get this look is to really introduce some kind of orange tint into the stain. Okay, so when I was describing what I did to this guitar to relic it, I completely forgot to mention some of the just minor modifications I had to do. This new one is just like a hair longer and just a hair wider as well. So I had to cut this out a little bit here for it to fit in. Now I didn't want to do it by hand because I didn't trust myself to make a nice clean circle. So what I did was I took the pick guard and put it on my drill press, and I got a circle cutter bit. I very, very slowly brought the bit down because I was afraid that it was going to grab the plastic and crack the pick guard. So I just brought it down very, very slowly and let it start to shave away. And it wasn't even 1/8 of an inch that I had to take off of this. It was very, very small, little, and it came out really nice. So another problem with it being a little bigger is that naturally, when you line up one screw hole, the other one was off. So that was the other modification I had to make, and I had to do it with the bridge as well, that some of the holes didn't line up right. So what I did was I chose, since I had this one cut out right, I chose to use this existing hole, and then I plugged this hole by just filling it up with toothpicks and then pouring in some wood glue and then just letting it, you know, cure for 24 hours to make sure it was done, and then I just sanded it to make sure it was smooth. And then when I installed this, then I screwed this screw in first, and then I took, oh, I don't have it here now, but I took one of those centering drill bits. It's a drill bit that has a little sheath around it, so that when you touch it to the opening, it makes sure that that drill bit goes right in the center of the hole and doesn't go off center. Because if that screw goes in off center, when you tighten it, it's going to push that plate to the, you know, to the right or to the left, and then it's not going to be perfectly, you know, parallel with the guitar. So I just drilled just a tiny pilot hole, and then I screwed it in, and it's nice and solid. I did the same thing with this. What I did was, since the center hole was okay and that it was lined up, I used the center hole as my reference, and then I plugged the two holes on each side, or one on each side. Same way with the toothpicks and the glue, let it cure for 24 hours, sand it a little bit. So when I installed this bridge, I first screwed in the center screw to get it right. I made sure that it was perfectly square, because unlike the old bridge has the 3 holes in the bottom, and it has a hole on each top corner. This one, they didn't bother to drill holes for the upper screws. I guess they figured all the tension is going to be the strings pulling on the bottom of it, so it didn't really need holes at the top, which that makes sense. And I was almost tempted to drill holes, but then I thought, well, the way it lines up, if I drilled holes, it would take out a little of this border, and it wouldn't look as nice, so I decided to just leave it the way it was. So anyway, yeah, I put this screw in, got it squared up, and then again with the centering drill bit, I just made just a little, and I didn't go in too deep, just a little pilot hole to make sure it's centered, and then I just by hand screwed it in, and it's in there nice and solid. The last thing that I had to correct, and this was a little bit more involved, the angle of this cutout for the pickup is slightly lower than this one, which required me to turn the pickup at a different angle. Problem is that Fender, or whoever manufactured this, okay, the cavity that they cut out is just big enough to fit the pickup. There was no room, there's no wiggle room at all to change it. So I had to take my router, after I had everything off, of course, I had to take my router and route out that opening a little bit, so that, and create some wiggle room so that the pickup would turn enough to fit at this angle, to fit this one. And I don't know if I could show it here, but you can see, yeah, you can see, I think, the difference in the angle. But again, it's a minor thing, and if you need to do it with a router. You'll get a much cleaner and more professional look, even though you're not going to see the cavity underneath. But if you had to use, you know, if you didn't use power tools to do it, and you did it with hand tools, it would be a real job to do it, I think. So that's it. And I love this. I love this. I highly recommend it if you want to upgrade your Telecaster. This is really nice, and honestly, I don't remember what I paid for it, but I remember it was surprisingly inexpensive to make such a nice upgrade to your Tele. So check on Amazon for it. Just look up Telecaster hardware, and you'll see this. It also comes in gold, which is nice. Okay, just a quick comparison, because in my first video the lighting wasn't great, but I just wanted to show the difference. And this lighting doesn't even do it justice either, but you can clearly see the difference between this this newer Tele neck and this 30-year-old neck. It's difficult to see the orangey tint to it. I don't know if that helps. But this is what I'm shooting for with this one, and we'll see if my method is going to work.